Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's video, we're working on the 40 Plymouth Chassis again. We've got a crate motor here that's been patiently waiting for the better part, I think, of 9 months to be put into the frame. And we have a T5 Borg-Warner transmission that we're going to mate up with it. So the intention in this video is basically to get the engine and transmission, first of all, out of this garage and over to the other one. It's going to take some juggling to get it out of here, but that's what we got to do. We'll get it out, get it mocked up together. I'll get it into the frame and then I'll start positioning it as to where I want to put it. Then I'm going to make up some engine mounts and transmission mounts for it in this episode, and hopefully we'll get her in there. So follow along as we get to work on that. So here we are. I've got the engine and the transmission bolted together. I don't have the clutch into it. I just want to put it in here for mock-up reasons. We made measurements on the frame when we took the 6-cylinder out, basically off of where the forward body mount is, and we knew we had a certain amount of clearance. Since then, the actual body has arrived, so it's sitting outside there. So I can actually go over to the body and take measurements off the, the forward mounts and how much clearance we have. Because there's two things that have to happen. The engine has to sit back as much as it can, both, and sit within the bay. And then also you've got clearances for the radiator. So we took those measurements beforehand, and I'm still double checking them. So what I've done, I had two drywall squares. So I kind of set the two drywall squares up off of where that line was on the body mount, and we've positioned the engine this way. Essentially the back of the transmission is going to be sitting center. The front of the engine will be in the center of the frame. And then we basically have to get the engine, the carburetor level at ride height, which will basically put the drive line at about a 3-degree tip down. So with all that said, we're close to where we need to be. So I went out and I decided I've got to make a bunch of different engine mounts. So I kind of like these puck style engine mounts. They're used on flathead Fords. So I bought a couple of these. I've got some also for the Roadster for that engine. And then I started making up engine mounts. And the style we're going to do is on the small block Chevy. There's a pad with 3 bolts onto it. I made up a plate that would bolt onto the engine mount over here, like so. And then we're going to come in here with this bracket like this. And I'll put this engine mount together so it'll be like this. You've probably seen them aftermarket. It sits at a 45-degree angle. I'll have gussets on either side of this, and that'll be the engine mount. Once I have those made up, then what we'll do is I'll make the pads for these biscuits to sit on. Again, I'll double, triple check where the engine position is going to be. Right now, it looks like I'm close. I figure I'm probably within a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of exactly where it's going to sit. We've got clearance for the front rack here. Nothing touches, and we're not touching the radiator mount in the front. Just just got to be sure before I weld things in here. So I'm going to carry on. I'm going to make up both of these engine mounts, and then I'll start making the pads. Once I have those done, then I'll move and I'll do the transmission mount. So right now I've just got a piece of plywood, or a piece of 2x4 that is, basically supporting the back of the transmission. So follow along, we're going to get this all shoehorned into the frame. Progressed a little further with the engine mounts for the small block Chevy and the 40 Plymouth frame. I made the piece that bolts to the side of the engine, and I made the metal pieces here plus the 2 gussets. So it's basically, I don't know if that's close enough. So right now where we're at is this is going to go right there, and the next step is the base, to make the base for it that's going to weld to the inside of the frame. And of course, like I said, I'm going to double, triple check my measurements. We made measurements on the flathead when we took it out, where the front of the fan was, where the back of it is. We've also got the body out there, so we're going to double, triple check all that stuff before I put it in there. But next step is completed. We have 2 engine mounts. Finished making up the lower engine mounts. I cheated a little bit, so instead of actually making a piece across the top and welded gussets on the side, I just went and took a piece of thick wall, 3/16 wall, 2x3 tubing, and I cut my piece out of it, like that. On the top, I have to drill 1 1/4 inch hole, which allows the puck here to sit in. And then the bolt comes up through the bottom like that. And then the engine mount would sit on here. I basically leveled everything again, measured the distance between the bolt and the frame, and came up, I think, with almost dead on 4 inches from here to the edge. So made 2 of these up already. I have the first one sitting here in the frame, ready to weld in, and I just have to put this one on the other side. So I'm going to carry on. I'm going to weld both of these in. I'm going to probably double check everything again, make sure the clearances are good. It keeps going back to the same place, so pretty confident so far, but nevertheless double check it again before you weld it. So I'll get these welded in, and then I'm going to move on to doing the transmission mount. Although this doesn't look very much differently than it did a couple seconds ago, since then I have tacked the lower mounts in place, took the engine and transmission out, welded all the way around the top, and then actually got up underneath and welded underneath, which probably isn't really necessary because the welds on top are good, but I just want the extra sense of safety. So both engine mounts are welded on both sides. The engine is level this way, the frame was level this way, have our 3 degrees on the drive line. So now we're off to the back here. In the back, previously, I just had a 2x4, some wood shims, basically, and propped the transmission up so that I had that angle on the drive line. I then got some 1/4 inch plate steel. It's I think it's 3 inches wide and 1/4 inch thick. Essentially, in order to get my 3 degrees, because one of the issues in the front, when I was mounting this, part of locating it, you got to make sure that obviously the front of the engine is the right distance away from the radiator as best you can, and then you got clearance in the back. But also, the harmonic balancer, I needed at least 3/4 inch clearance between that and the steering. And I just barely have that. I don't want the engine sitting too low or too high, but you've got to kind of position it so that dictated where the front of the engine is, which then, as a result of the 3 degrees, will now dictate where the actual transmission is going to sit in the back. So I fabricated this piece up. It actually is going to sit this way because it comes up. Most of the other applications, like on my Roadster and the pickup, it actually was lower and the transmission would hang on down a little lower. But in this case, to clear everything, we've got to sit a little higher. This may actually result in having to make a bit of a tunnel, but that's what you got to do. So we've got it best fitted right now. I'm going to put this in here. I'll show you. I've already tried it, but there we are right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld that to the frame. More than likely put 1 or 2 little gussets here just for extra safety and stuff, and we'll wrap this up in a few minutes. So there it is, 350 Chevy and a T5 transmission and a 40 Plymouth chassis. I probably could have bought some aftermarket universal fit engine mounts, but I just decided I want to make them myself. I also would welded on both sides. They're a little more heavy duty than probably what I think I can buy online. But anyways, I just chose to make them all. Same thing with the rear transmission mount here. We made that all from scratch with 1/4-inch plate. It's all in right now. So that's it for this video. 350 T5 transmission and a 40 Plymouth chassis. And we're on to the next part of this. We're going to talk to the owner, see what else he wants me to do. I think we're going to be doing exhausts and brakes, but we'll see. You'll see in an upcoming episode. So that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Please send me your comments, questions, whatever. And don't forget to please like, share, tag, and subscribe. And I'll see you next week. Everybody take care.